Hey everybody, I'm Curtis.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is Love at First Fright.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. This is all I'm asking for. I want there to be full frontal nudity in my new favorite vampire horror.
Okay. Really had to.
Yeah. Nailed it.
I was going to say, and stop, because that's for the copyright.
Yeah, if this gets taken down.
Mariah Carey's coming for us.
Yeah, Mariah Carey and her...
She's coming.
She's coming. Her and her team of lawyers.
Merry Christmas if you celebrate it. And if you don't, happy holidays.
Yep. Happy Monday.
Well, Christmas was on a Wednesday.
This episode's coming out on a Monday.
Yeah, I know, but if we're saying Merry Christmas.
Okay, Merry Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Hump day, am I right?
Ayo.
Or halfway.
Yep, it's almost Friday.
It's almost the weekend.
Whoop, whoop.
All right, now we've covered our base for no matter when they listen to this episode.
We're good.
But explicitly if they listen to it on a Wednesday.
Or a Monday.
Yeah. All right, what do we say if they're doing it on Tuesday?
Taco Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
Ayo. Happy Taco Tuesday.
Yep. Anyway.
I'm getting like war flashbacks because this is something I do a lot at work because I have like a daily responsibility where I have to like post a Teams message that has a list of work, and I always have to post some like GIF or something. So every day I've set myself up where now I'm like, oh, how do I find a new GIF that sort of celebrates the majesty of a Tuesday? Yeah. You know, because I can't use the same one every week.
I'm glad I don't have to do that because it sounds kind of abysmal.
It's corporate hell.
Yeah. Anyway, what isn't corporate hell is Christmas, I guess.
No, that's wrong. It's capitalist hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but we just celebrated Christmas. We got to see family. Yeah,
we saw family. We did the whole present thing.
Yeah.
It was like a whole extended event.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Over multiple days.
Yeah. Which I think is the case for like most people. But you got me what I was most excited about, like two different things, but for like very different reasons. Mm-hmm. One was like a new pair of shoes because I've been really wanting a new pair, and you got me them, and they're super comfortable. Yeah. And also they look real cool. Mm-hmm. So
Mr. Cool Guy coming in.
That's what they say.
Uh-huh. He's coming.
It's a vampire and just like some sick New Balances.
Smart sneakers. Yeah.
He stops and he's like, my Vessies will let me go from the office to hiking. Yeah. Or whatever they say. And
then from hiking to eating a man because it's a vampire.
Yeah, because he's a vampire. Yeah. So that's, but no, the other thing you got me, which is far less practical but way cooler, is a VCR. Yeah. And you also got me a couple of VHS tapes to go with it, which is really cool. But yeah, we've been, I think we've talked about it before that we've like started collecting some like dead media stuff or whatever, like VHS tapes and cassette tapes and everything.
Yeah, got a little collection going of horror stuff now.
Yeah, but you met up with a woman to buy a VCR. Yep. And
met her on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. Which is an experience I do not have yet. I've sold something I gave something away on Facebook Marketplace.
No, it was an experience. You know, it's the holidays. She picked the time and the place, and then she was somehow 30 minutes late. Yeah. And yeah, it was just kind of a whole thing. Yeah. But anyway, I got the VCR.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I got it hooked up like the next day and tested it out with one of the tapes that you got me, which I was like super. One of them was kind of a gag thing.
Yeah.
But I do still love it. It was the remake of Psycho with Vince Vaughn, but it was still in its sealed wrap, which is hilarious to me.
Yep.
And I don't know if I'm gonna be the one to unseal that bad boy. I think
he might just
yours now. The power's in my hands.
Yes.
But what I tested the VCR player with was a VHS of Terror Train. And I was so happy that you got this VHS, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Which it's that movie is another Jamie Lee Curtis movie, and it's bad,
but it's good.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Terrible movie.
Yeah.
Terribly great.
It's real bad. Like, it's really bad. I did use it last night. I didn't go to bed at the same time, and I couldn't go to sleep right away, and so I put in the VHS copy of The Thing.
Nice.
And I let that play, and that was fun.
Yeah.
There's something about movies on VHS. It's like old TV commercials, and you know how they have the sound to them, and it sounds kind of fuzzy, but that fuzziness sounds kind of warm in a way, if that makes sense. And there's something about watching movies on VHS.
Yep.
The quality is not as good as the ultra 8K things we have today, but there's something about them.
Can't be beat. I know a lot of it is nostalgia, but
sure.
It is very comforting.
Yeah. I'm going to be looking out for getting like Jurassic Park on
some
VHS.
Other faves.
Yeah, some of my like childhood favorites.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a really, really exciting gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got you a couple board games.
Yeah.
Which we haven't cracked into yet, but we're gonna.
Yeah. I do love board games. And you got me some fun roller derby stuff.
Yeah. I got you some knee pads.
Yep.
And a little toe
guards.
Toe guards. I was going to say toe caps, but that's not.
Well, you can call them that too.
Oh, okay,
that's
cool.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Christmas.
Yeah, it was a really good Christmas. I enjoyed it.
And we capped off our Christmas by going to the movies.
Yeah.
And seeing the movie we're going to discuss today.
We went and saw Nosferatu. So this is kind of a...
we had a couple false
getting
starts.
There was an adventure in and of itself. So like a while ago, was that Thanksgiving? We were visiting my parents, and my mom gave us these like movie pass things or whatever, and we applied that to go see the movie because we were like, ooh, they're gonna do a special popcorn bucket that we really want to get for this thing. And where we live, there isn't one of the theaters that these passes were good for.
Right.
So, but near where my parents live, there is one of these theaters, and that's like 45 minutes away.
Sure.
But we were like, okay, maybe it'll be worth it to drive out there 45 minutes because technically the movie's free.
Right.
And we're just going to buy the popcorn bucket.
Right.
Then, like, each week leading up to the movie releasing, we got more and more dejected.
Yeah.
Because we were learning that...
It's like weirdly competitive to get these, like, I know they're collectibles, but there's like a whole culture around these popcorn buckets, and you apparently cannot be a casual fan and obtain one of these.
Which is crazy.
Because the theaters, like, it's bizarre. They start selling them in the theater, like, sometimes a week in advance. They basically sell them as soon as they get the stock, like, in, even if the movie's not out yet. And then they also like sell them online, but then there's like an upcharge for it being online and shipping costs and all this stuff.
Yeah, like everyone knows that going to the movie theater, you're going to pay like way too much money for popcorn and soda.
Yeah.
That's kind
it's a rip.
It's kind of part of it.
It's where
like,
they make their money.
We do that when we go just because we like the experience of it and everything. But like just the popcorn bucket alone And granted, this is a collector's one
sure.
for whatever that's worth. I guess about $36 when you have popcorn in it, or $25 without the popcorn. Mm-hmm. But the problem is again, they start selling them like a week before the movie even comes out. Mm-hmm. And so then we were like, now we're going to be gambling on whether the theater will even have any when we get there, because again, these like other like scalpers, we'll just call them that, like go in and they'll buy out the whole stock because the theater doesn't care.
eBay or whatever.
And then so we were like, oh, well, we could just order it online. No, we can't, because it's double the price for the bucket. It's like $60.
Yeah,
and you don't even get popcorn with it.
Shipping and stuff. It was so stupidly expensive. It was like $58.
Yeah.
And I was like, sorry, it looks cool and everything. The popcorn bucket is like Nosferatu's coffin, but it ain't worth that to me.
No.
So
I'll make my own.
We kind of just gave up on that, and we were like, all right, we can't get the tickets refunded because we used a pass, so we'll just eat that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so then we were like, okay, we'll still see it on Christmas Day when it comes out, but we'll buy tickets to a theater close to us.
Yeah.
And then I got really depressed on Christmas. And I was having a straight up not good time. And I wanted to go home and sit on the couch.
Yeah, we were like halfway home and you were like, what if we just go home and play Baldur's Gate 3?
Like, I literally just want to sit on the couch and be sad.
Yeah.
So then we canceled that, and we were able to get a refund minus the service fees. Service piece.
The service piece.
Oh no.
You can have the money back, but we done pissed all over it already. So. And that's a service we do for you.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to pee on the money. They tell me I gotta do it.
Yeah. So anyway, lost out on like $4 there. And then the next day...
And I'm pretty sure, by the way, the movie, when we used the passes, we still had to pay like $4 in service fees. So we're already out like $8 on this movie.
And then the day after, we were like, maybe we'll see it depending on if Hannah's depressed or not.
You had to consult the horoscopes.
Yeah. So then we had to buy tickets to a whole other theater. And yeah, it's just, it was a little bit of a shit show. And
the theater that we ended up buying to is physically closer to our house, so that was great.
Sure.
It was a weird experience. I mean, kind of.
It felt like false advertising, because I had always heard it was one of those movie theaters that like sells like the real food. And when I hear that, I think of a place like where they take your order at your seat and like bring you your food.
Yeah, if you've never been to them, it's very common that they have like cushier chairs to sit in, and then there's like a table that like swings out in front of you, like a little table, and then there's sometimes a button on that table usually that you can press and it like calls like a waiter or something.
So I thought it was gonna be one of those.
Yeah, I did too.
But this theater, I guess, was like a combination thing where only one of their theaters has like the full service,
and that is alleged. I actually don't know if they have the button or if it's still just a table.
Right. But you have to like order the food at the concession stand, and then you can either eat it in the lobby at a table, or you can bring it
like a heathen
to your theater seats. But there's no table, there's no like room really for your items. But yeah, we made it work. I enjoyed my corn dog bites.
I got a hot dog, and we got there early because, again, I was under the assumption that it was you order in the theater and they bring it to you. And my experience is you kind of want to get there a little bit early so this way you can get the order out of the way.
Right.
And then hopefully by the time the movie has started, they've brought you your food so nobody's walking in front of you during that. Then our surprise when that's not how it works at all. So we got there, we just got popcorn and drinks, and then went to the theater, sat down, realized it wasn't anything like that, and then we were like, okay, well, we have time, let's go order food. So we went and did that, got the food, and by the time it came out, the movie was about to start.
Yeah.
So then we went back to the theater, now laden with boxes and drinks and corn that hath been popped.
Yep.
And now we're sitting in the darkness, trying really hard to open the boxes that they gave us into it in without like And, like, we'll get into this when we talk about the movie. It opens so quiet. The movie is so quiet. Like, to the point where when it started, I kind of thought, like, oh, the sound's not working and I'm going to have to go complain to somebody. But we were trying to, like when it's the dead of night and you want to get a snack and the only thing available, like, that you really want is a bag of chips and it's fresh open. Or, honestly, even worse if it's not. And you're just trying to just... We're trying to do that.
Why do your chips sound like a rusty door hinge?
Hey, don't. It's my favorite flavor. But we're trying to do that. But then even worse for me, and this is not a reflection on the theater at all. This is, I truly just forgot to do this. I got this hot dog and then neglected to put ketchup or mustard on the hot dog. So then it was just dry. And I had already walked in front of a couple of people to get to the seat with this. And I was like, I'm going to want to get up to go wash my hands again. I can't keep getting up in front of these people. And also, in order to get the ketchup, I would have had to walk all the way back to the lobby. And this place is like a labyrinth in there. We had to turn like 3 corners to get to the actual theater.
3? What?
Well, yeah, it was a lot. Well, well, maybe not most. I've only been in, I don't know, half a dozen theaters or whatever. But I feel like most of them is like you get past the concessions and then it's like a left or right deal. Yeah, it's just kind of
it's like a T-shape situation.
And then it's just all down there. But this one's, they're all over. There's one with like a bouncy house in the theater or something.
It was crazy.
Anyway,
welcome back to the second episode of our movie theater review podcast, Love at First Bite.
Ooh.
Where we discuss the popcorn at different theaters. This one was okay.
Yeah, it would have been better if the butter pump was
gross.
I don't know what it's.
Try that
dispenser,
one more time.
Butter
there
dispenser. I like butter pump.
I'm sure you do. Freaking pervert.
Yeah. Hey. After this movie,
he's coming.
Yeah. No, they had 2 butter things, but it was like kind of crowded when we went, and one of them, the one that we happened to be near, wasn't working. Yeah. And then it didn't have the little powder. Yeah. I don't know what that is. It's like salt and butter flavor or whatever. Salt, So that one was only near the one that was working, but that was also mobbed by a bunch of people. Yeah. But they do get points for having a Coke Freestyle machine, and I did like that with Diet Dr. Pepper in it, and that was delicious.
Yeah.
So. Anyway.
All that to say, we saw Nosferatu. He's coming.
Yeah.
If you saw the trailer for Nosferatu, then you already know he's coming.
Yeah. Everyone knows he's coming.
Everything they said in the trailer.
I do remember when I first, everyone was like, oh my god, you see this new Nosferatu trailer? And I went and watched it, and I walked away from it being like, the only thing people said in this was he's coming. That was it. It's like talking to everybody. It was like a lot more talking about somebody coming than I really would have anticipated from this movie.
I didn't necessarily think it was going to be... I knew it was going to be a non-zero.
Yeah, I knew that it was going to be somewhere between 0 and 100. But I didn't expect it to lean way more to 100.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk about this freaking movie.
Yes, let's get into this.
All right, let's get into the deets. It's a 2024 gothic horror film. It was written and directed by Robert Eggers, whom I love. He did The Witch, and that's one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
See, this makes a lot of sense, and we'll talk about it when we get into this. But about some of the reviews I've read about this movie, but.
But of course, this is, a remake of the 1922 silent film Nosferatu, which is, of course, an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula.
Yeah.
So this is based on the movie that is based on the book.
You're right.
The cast of this film, we have Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok / Nosferatu. Amazing job. We have Nicholas Hoult as Thomas Hutter, Lily Rose Depp as Ellen Hutter, Aaron Taylor Johnson as Friedrich Harding, Emma Corrin as Anna Harding, and Willem Dafoe as Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz, Ralph Ineson as Dr. Willem Sievers, And most importantly, the main character, the 5,000 trained rats that played a very important part in this film at multiple points.
Listed as a cast member?
No.
5,000 trained rats?
No, that's just a piece of trivia I've heard.
5,000 rats, parentheses, trained.
Yes, trained, yes. Also, there's a wonderful little clip of Willem Dafoe going around where, like, a press tour interview where he's talking about how absolutely delightful it was to work with the 5,000 rats and how he can't think of a better acting partner, which is just like, okay, you've acted with a lot of people and the 5,000 trained rats take the cake.
Yeah.
So that's how I know that.
Take that, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe is so real. For that, absolutely.
He's a man of the rats.
He is. Yeah. So that's the main cast. Of course, there's some other people, but they're, less important. This is... It's very... Just as kind of like a content warning for anyone who maybe hasn't seen the movie yet. Yeah. While this movie is obviously very horrifying and horror... Yes. But it's also very erotic. There's a lot of, like, sexual content. Yeah. There's also a lot of, like, what might be considered, like, more disturbing or perverse sexual content, if that's, like, not something you're cool with. So, just proceed with caution. I've heard many a horror story of people who didn't know that and got up to see this at 10 a.m. on Christmas morning with their entire extended family. And I imagine that made for an awkward ride home. Because we literally get an orgasm before the title card. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got out of this movie and we had told people we were about to go see it and that we would report back once we got out of it. And the first thing I said when we got out of the movie was, this movie horny, y'all. Yep. Like, it's just start to finish all the way through.
Yep. Which is great.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, I do.
This movie's for the weirdos like me.
I do also, I want to say, like, typically, like, we obviously, just big spoiler warning on this episode because the movie is, like, brand new by the time this episode is going to be coming out. So if you plan on seeing it and you don't want it spoiled at all, don't listen to this episode until after you see the movie. If you don't care, then...
Or if you've already seen the 1922 Nosferatu and have a pretty good familiarity with the story beat.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say that is one thing about this. The story is basically the same. Like, it's not really changed at all. That visually, this is a completely different movie and, like, take on it.
We have this entire new element of dialogue because it was a silent film. Yeah. So that adds a whole other level to the movie.
But it's
following it pretty closely.
Yeah. So I'll say the kind of spoiler-free review of this kind of ends, like, now because we're about to get into the actual, like, the stuff of the movie and, like, what we thought about the movie. And I got some opinions.
So do I.
But if you just want to hear what we thought about the movie, just so you don't miss out on that part of it. I loved it. It was really good. Come back later and you'll get an actual, like, score review.
We'll get into the who's and whys and the whats, but this movie rules.
Yeah, this movie rips.
Yeah.
So go forth and enjoy it, my children.
Yes. And bring protection.
And come.
They're coming.
Everyone's coming.
Yes. Oh my God.
This Christmas. Everyone's coming.
Last Christmas, he made us all come.
Okay, so let's kind of get into it. So, like, what I was talking about right at the beginning of this movie is it does start very quiet, and then we get, like, very subtle music kind of in the background, and the whole thing starts with Ellen as a younger girl,
teen, maybe,
saying this, like, prayer out into the darkness, asking for, like, comfort and for something to come to her.
Anything.
Like
a guardian angel.
She's just reaching out for anything. And this leads to this big orgasm moment where she's, like, out just in the lawn.
Yeah.
Just
next to some lilacs.
Yeah, just writhing around. And then we get the first jump scare of the movie as she's like in the throes of it, where it flashes and we see Nosferatu like over her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we go some years later or many years later or whatever. And then the rest of the story takes off from there.
Right.
One of my favorite things about this movie is visually how it looks.
Yes.
There were several scenes in this movie that, like, as I was watching it, I was like, that's so good.
Everything... I loved the color grading in this movie too, because everything was like so washed out and like monochrome, almost to the point where it read as black and white at certain points, even though the entire thing is filmed in color, which is honestly just like a feat, and it really, really fed the vibe.
Yeah.
It really felt like this movie, I think more than anything, has great atmosphere and like just tension building. Like you feel dread the entire time you're watching the movie, and I think visually it really adds to that, because it seems oppressive. Like every day it seems like it's like a super overcast moment, so it's just like everything builds on itself, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, we get a lot of this like throughout the movie where it starts kind of bright, other than the opening scene, which is definitely is at night when this happens. But then from that point, it kind of, when it jumps forward, we're like in the morning and it's daytime and like he's going to work and he's like talking to somebody, and like the first character that he like meets other than his and I'm talking about at this point Thomas, he's heading into the office at the Knockin Associates firm. It's basically a real estate firm. And the first person he meets there is like laughing, and it seems weird that he's laughing because he doesn't really explain like why he's laughing. We know why later, but like it's all kind of bright and it's in the morning and you kind of see like that. And now that's not to say that it like 180s into this like super cheery movie, because again, the color grading makes it feel like very washed out and dreary the entire time. We're like in Germany in 1838 and like, you know, when the camera's following him through the streets, there's like a guy just like butchering like a pig or something like that. And it's very crowded, and
beggars and, you know, all sorts of stuff.
And so we get all this, and it's still very dreary, but it's like, it tonally, it's like, it's very bright. But then as the movie progresses, particularly when he leaves home to go on the journey to see Count Orlok to sell him the property, it like progressively becomes darker and darker and darker and starts becoming that like more black and white thing. There's a scene where he's on his way to the castle and he's lost his horse and he's on this road, and the woods, I guess, are like pressing in, and it's just black, and then you just see this kind of light behind him, and everything in the scene looks black and white, but again, it's filmed in color. And that's one of the scenes that I think is like one of the more beautiful scenes. It also was like, as a big D&D nerd, I was like, oh, I'm ripping this off from when I run Curse of Strahd, because like this is the perfect.
This is Strahd, send in the carriage. Oh
my god, it's so,
and being like, get in, invitation for dinner, baby.
Oh man, it was so good. But so one of my favorite things is like this gradual like going into darkness as he like gets closer to the city where they are. What, I can't remember the name of the city that they're in. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Somewhere Germany, whatever.
Wissenberg or something. I don't remember.
But as he gets closer, but also as he like becomes more powerful,
right.
We get like darker and darker. More of the scenes happen at night and, you know, under his shadow and everything up until the climax of the movie where the day breaks and it becomes this, the curse is broken and we're getting this warm sunlight that you don't really see at any other point in the movie.
No, not really. It's one thing I respect about this movie too, and I feel like for as much as it is very heavy and quite intentional, like it's not super flashy, there's not jump scares all the time, but it still manages to keep this pace where we are always in the action. Like they never waste a moment in this movie. As soon, you know, from the first moment, we're establishing Ellen has this connection with some evil being. but now she has, she's happy, she's found the love of her life, but she still has been deeply fundamentally changed by this experience with evil. Mm-hmm. And she knows, like, she has that line after he leaves the house to go to the real estate firm where she just kind of speaks out to no one and is like, it's already in motion, he's already got the job. Mm-hmm. So it's like she has this thing where she knows what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. But again, considering like the time and the context of all of this, she's really treated through the majority of the film as like a hysterical woman, a woman who's affected by melancholia, and no one really believes her, even though we as the audience know this is very much real and happening. Yeah. And I thought that was also an interesting element to this, of like kind of the way that men in the film are seeking to help her, but because they don't really take the time to believe her or understand her, they quite literally can't. Yeah. And it gets to a point where she can't just like wait around to be saved, mm-hmm. even by her husband. I know I say that in a way that sounds like he's purely dismissive. He's a very doting husband, mm-hmm. and their relationship is actually quite beautiful. Mm-hmm. But there's still this element of like, he wants to save her. Yeah. And there's kind of this paternalistic edge to all of the relationships in the movie. And I think it's especially satisfying to see Ellen's character growth throughout the film. There's a point towards kind of the midpoint where she's arguing with Friedrich Harding, who very much is a skeptic and does not believe any of this stuff that's happening. Yeah. And he's basically saying, like, why can't you just let this go? Like, just go home with your husband, leave me and my wife alone, just drop it. Yeah. And she says, like, I can't do that because I know I'm in the right. Yeah. Which is pretty badass when you consider like her care, like how she starts so timid and so like apologetic to take up any space or attention, and then she's basically just like, hey dude, you're fucking wrong and I know what's up and you're gonna get yourself killed because you won't listen to me. Yeah. And she's right.
Yeah. She tells him at one point that everyone is going to die. Yeah. Because she knows what's actually happening, but people mm-hmm. just don't want to believe her. The only people that do believe her are Willem Dafoe's character.
Yeah, the professor.
And then her husband, Thomas, but only after he has visited Count Orlok himself.
He's been touched by it himself.
Yeah. And even then, there's this... I think, as you put it, like there's this idea that the men have to go and save mm-hmm. her and keep her safe. There's some moving parts there where like the professor knows that that's not the answer to this or whatever, but also like he knows that like Thomas would never mm-hmm. like agree to the plan, as he knows that it would need to, happen and everything. Sure. So another thing that I really found great about this movie was I don't know if it's like a major thing or whatever. I just really liked it. But what they did with Bill Skarsgård's voice for Nosferatu, yes. He's speaking in certain parts a different language. Mm-hmm. And then at other parts, even when he is speaking English, although I think it's that thing where like technically they're all speaking German, but like we're supposed to be able to understand them. So whatever. Mm-hmm. But even when he's the only one that has this like
super
growly, thick accent, mm-hmm. just and the accent itself feels oppressive. Right. And gross. Yeah. There are so many like little moments, particularly when Thomas is at Orlok's castle, mm-hmm. And he meets him for the first time, and like all of this weird, trippy stuff starts happening. Yeah. Like when he first meets him and he gets to the castle, he goes to knock on the main door and it just opens in front of him, and then he sees a figure standing pretty far off in like the courtyard area, mm-hmm. and he just like says hello, and then the figure turns around, and then when he finally gets up to there, Count Orlok is who it was, and he's, you know, says that he's late, and the hour of midnight has passed, and so all of his attendants have retired, which he doesn't have any attendants here.
He lives in like a crumbling ruin, basically.
Yeah. But then like they're walking up this curved staircase up this tower, and the steps that Orlok is taking are like so heavy and thudding, and then they just stop close to when they get to the top, and Thomas is saying something, and he doesn't get a response from Orlok that he thinks he should get, and he gets to where the footsteps would have stopped, but then Orlok isn't there, and he just looks, and there's this like big fire in this other room, and he can't see Orlok, and you're like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
And then he goes in there, and like every time Orlok's moving around the room, he's just like suddenly on the other side of him and stuff, and it's like so trippy and weird. It's
extremely disorienting, and you're kind of seeing it from Thomas's perspective, and it almost signals like you don't even know if what Orlok is doing is like this magic, you know, like teleportation, or if he's like missing time and like blacking out. Like it's very disorienting. Yeah. But I love that too. I saw some criticism of Bill Skarsgård's performance with the accent and everything. I thought it was really cool and really effective. And one thing that I really loved about it was how he has this like way of speaking in the role where he's sort of like it's almost rhythmic. It's like a droning, and it kind of reminded me of way back a while ago when we watched Sinister for the podcast, and we were talking about, you know, the scene, the famous lawnmower scene, where there's this kind of rhythmic like droning music that's sort of quiet and lures you in, and I feel like Bill Skarsgård managed to do that with his voice, where there's something like so like hypnotic about it, and I think that was perfect for the character because of this influence that he has on anyone that he kind of interacts with in any way, where he's like, it's a very odd combination of like he's possessing them, he's visiting them, he's, you know, influencing them. It's you don't even really know what he's doing, but he has control, you know.
Yeah. I mean even the castle itself feels designed in a way to like disorient.
Oh yeah.
But like also like draw people in or like keep them there under the influence. There's scenes where like Thomas is running around when he's like decided, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And like he runs down one hallway and the camera keeps going, and then he just like bursts out of a doorway and he's in the courtyard all of a sudden, but then he can't get out. And
I just have to say too, because we kind of glossed over this, there ain't nobody alive or dead, past or present, who has ever wanted a promotion more than Thomas Hutter. He literally, the entire journey from talking to his boss to even get the weird ass job, to traveling there, to everything that happens once he gets there, like the fact that he didn't get to that village outside of the castle and say, actually I'm good, I'm gonna return home to my life.
Actually fine,
actually fuck this.
Especially like, I mean, like fine if he got to the village and then like he was just like, whatever, it's a bunch of people that have a different custom or whatever, but then so when he gets there that night, he gets woken up because he hears like some people talking, and there's like torchlight from outside, and he looks and he follows them, and they have this woman who I guess is a virgin on a horse, and they're like leading her through the woods, and eventually they come upon a grave site, and they dig up a vampire, what they say is this vampire in their grave, and then they stake the vampire through the heart, and this is one of the more disgusting moments when they do it, and he's just like or whatever.
It's very gross.
But it was also kind of interesting because I think it's supposed to play with that idea that like,
was he dreaming?
What was Thomas dreaming, but also like the lore of vampires, right? Like people thought people were vampires when it was just the natural like decomposition of bodies, because like sometimes they would move, or like gas would get trapped inside, and so it would seem like they were vomiting or leaking, they had the blood coming out of their mouth or whatever, but it was literally just like the body decaying.
Right.
And so like, was this person that they staked in the ground an actual vampire, or was it just a corpse, and these people are incredibly superstitious?
Right.
Compounded by the fact that they definitely know who Orlok is, because Thomas asks about him, and they're like, don't say that name.
They're like, hey, don't go there.
Yeah, don't go there, my guy. So they definitely know Orlok exists and also is a vampire.
Yeah.
But yeah,
interesting.
When he's in that village, he gets there, he sees this whole scene, and then like he wakes up immediately after, is like what we get. And so they're playing with like, was he dreaming it? But when he looks down at his feet, when he's in the bed, they're caked in mud. So like, you know, he must not have been dreaming it,
right? Kind
of a thing. And so it's all very weird.
Yes, to put it lightly.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's more of just like the horror elements of it. Yeah. There's a whole sequence, which I also thought was like really cool, where Nosferatu gets his coffin on the ship and has it shipped over to the city.
Yep.
Bismarck or whatever.
It's not Bismarck.
I don't know. But he gets it shipped over there, and they do the whole sequence. They made a whole movie off of this one part of Dracula.
The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah. And this condensed thing of that was, I never saw Last Voyage of the Demeter, and I feel like this scene within this movie was way better than that, because it condenses it down and you really get the point of it. And because it's also condensed down and it's on the ship, that it feels way more claustrophobic. And again, we know what's going on as the audience, but like the people on board don't know. But we get this like whole scene of the ship, and when that comes in, and that's just one small part of it. It's so cool what he did in this movie, where he took like different parts of like vampire lore to create kind of his own take on Nosferatu. But it's also still just a remake of Nosferatu. Like it's the same story, but there's definitely some spins on it. One of the best spins, I guess, take it or leave it, some people don't like it, was the mustache.
Yeah, I don't get why everyone was so upset about that, but whatever.
I think it's accurate for him to even have one.
Yeah, well, and apparently I haven't read Bram Stoker's Dracula, so I'm just reporting back what I have heard. Yeah. Don't at me, bro.
Yeah.
But apparently he's described as having a mustache in the book, and that was something that Nosferatu didn't do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a blending of things, but yeah, I thought it was interesting to see all the different vampire lore. You know, there was even like, there's a very brief, they don't spend a lot of time on it or anything, but in that village when Thomas Hutter is traveling, as he walks into kind of the like tavern area, there's an old woman doing a blessing over a window with garlic, and it's just you know, it's just little things like that where there's all these little touches that, you know, we've all experienced. And even down to this sort of central premise of Ellen having to willingly give herself to Nosferatu, I think kind of plays on the whole, like, they have to be invited in and like all this stuff.
Well, it's like anytime he shows up to one of these locations, anytime a character has like locked themselves in a room or they're in a closed off space, they always open the room up to him so that he can enter into the space. And whether it's verbally or not, I think the implication is that they are in fact inviting him in.
Yeah. It's great. And I also have to say, here I'm going to go on my little brief rampage, but I think this is an incredibly feminist movie, and I've seen some criticism where people strongly disagree with that sentiment because they think like the sexuality is unnecessary and that, you know, Ellen, you know, kind of sacrificing herself and dying in the end like sends a bad message. But I think this movie is a tragedy. I think I don't think we're supposed to walk away feeling like, wow, it's so inspirational how she had to sacrifice herself to save everything. But I don't think that takes away from it being a really unapologetically feminist telling of Dracula, which is already kind of a feminist tale.
Sure.
But there's so much here. Like, it is fundamentally Ellen's story, and her journey is the story of Nosferatu. And there's so many amazing moments. Like, Willem Dafoe gives a line, and I don't remember the exact verbiage of it, but it was so impactful to me when she kind of asked to speak with him privately, and they have this exchange about how she knows that she has to, in order to stop the curse, she has to submit to Nosferatu. Mm-hmm. He knows this as well, but he's not saying this to the men because, again, they'll never agree.
Mm-hmm.
But he's talking to her in this very he admires her kind of way, where he's like, you have this gift, you connect with things that other people can't. And he says, if you had been born in pagan times, you would be regarded as a priestess. Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of this interesting moment of, like, again, there's discussion about, like, modernity in there. There's also this kind of, like, science versus, like, spirituality conversation that's happening in the background, a lot of this as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's very interesting to think about Ellen as basically being, like, a victim of the time and circumstances of her birth, that, like, things could have been different in her life.
Yeah.
If it weren't for when she was alive. But yeah, I think it's great. I think it also is giving some really powerful commentary about, like, abuse and grooming, because you can look at the relationship between Ellen and Nosferatu as a fundamentally abusive one, but there's also this element of, like, sexual tension between them.
Yeah.
So it was really smart.
And I kind of wanted to, like, touch on that because, like, other people complain. I've seen complain in some of the reviews I've read about the movie about, like, we get to see what Nosferatu looks like at a couple of different points, and he doesn't look good.
He's
honestly, literally a walking corpse.
He is, like, truly disgusting.
Yeah.
He's not the classic, like, preserved in time vampire. He's literally has, like, pustules and maggots, like, coming off
and
of
like
him.
Parts of his flesh are literally decayed, and like he's got, it's like sagging off of him, and he's all emaciated and everything, and he's horrifying to look at. And there have been people that have been like, I don't understand why she would be, like, so into this, especially, like, I don't know if in the movie they explicitly say it, but, like, in the tellings of it, he's also described to be, like, smelling really terribly like a corpse. And so, like, why would she be into that? But again, it's an abusive relationship, right? Like, she's seeing past a lot of those things, or wanting him in spite of those things because of, the abuse and everything. But also, I think it is meant to, when there's these moments where when he is feeding on somebody, there's a couple of different times we get to see him do this. One of the first ones is on Thomas, when he's in Orlok's castle, and he's on top of Thomas, who's just passed out on the floor. And this Nosferatu, when he feeds, he, like, feeds where their heart is.
Yeah, like in the center of your chest.
And it's this very rhythmic kind of feeding that he does. And when he does it, and we get these zoom outs on the position that he's in, it looks very sexual. Like, he's on top of them, and it kind of looks like he's, like, humping them or whatever. And again, it's this rhythmic thing, because he's literally sucking their blood as their heart is pumping the blood and everything. But I think it's intentionally supposed to make you feel uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
That it is this hyper-sexualized moment that you are witnessing. But that's also a corpse. Like, it's a disgusting corpse.
Right.
That in, like, any other context, this would be kind of, attractive or hot or whatever. Right. But again, disgusting, stinky corpse man.
Corpse man, yeah. Yeah. And we love him.
Yeah.
We love him. No, I think it's really fascinating to me, their dynamic. And we get some background of, Ellen's childhood being this, like, lonely child who was sort of othered, and her father resented her, and all this stuff, and it explains why she was just so desperate to have any kind of connection, and therefore inadvertently opened herself up to this fucking force of evil.
Yeah.
But again, it's like she talks about how it felt good at times, which I think is kind of accurate to abusive relationships. Like no one has a hard time ending an abusive relationship because of the bad parts.
Yeah.
It's because of the good parts,
yeah.
And so it was really fascinating. And I was incredibly moved by, there's one scene between Thomas and Ellen after he's returned home and, all of this where she's kind of having this, she's crashing out hard, honestly. I don't know if Nosferatu was possessing her or what was going on, but she's going through it. And she kind of has all these like changes where she's like, I hate you. You went off and did this for you, not for me. I never asked for money, but also like, please don't leave me. You're everything to me. Like she's kind of all over the place. And there's a scene where she's like, I'm unclean, leave me. And he just like grips her really hard and he goes, never. And it's just like, dang, like I think when people talk about this movie being romantic, I think that's the part that's romantic.
Yeah, it's nothing about Nosferatu
right.
is romantic. It is how Thomas comes to feel about, I mean, I guess he feels this way the entire time, but like how he ends up expressing it with Ellen and everything. I also think the ending of the movie is kind of this very powerful metaphor for like her shame, because that's kind of what she refers to it all, and that Nosferatu is this creation of her shame and her taking this on and it freeing her. And yes, she dies because of it, but she also looks kind of happy when this happens. So she looks upon Thomas as she passes and she's kind of smiling from this, and it's all very freeing and everything as the sun comes in and Willem Dafoe is holding a cat.
Love him to death.
So, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's a really wonderful movie. Disturbing, horrifying, but fantastic. Yeah. Acting, everybody was on their A game. I heard some people being like, what was Aaron Taylor Johnson doing? This performance was terrible. And I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Yeah. There was that one...
He's playing a rich asshole.
There was that one shot after his wife dies where it cuts to him sitting on the ground holding his two small daughters in silence. I literally, like, I'm gonna fall to my knees.
Yeah.
It was so powerful.
And then the fucked up thing is like the fucking next night.
Yeah.
Because the wife wasn't dead yet.
Oh yeah, she had been infected.
Yeah, and he knew she was going to die.
Yeah.
And so he was, consoling his kids and also sitting there and being like, fuck. Because part of the other thing is they were expecting a third child. So
she was pregnant.
This would also mean that they're going to lose that third child. But then this fucked up thing is the second night of the 3 nights that Nosferatu gives Ellen to submit to her. He shows back up at the manor. And oh man, you hear the kids screaming.
It's awful.
And the wife gets up and he's put a spell basically on Friedrich
so that
he won't wake up, so he doesn't hear anything. But she wakes up, and again, she's infected with the plague or whatever, and she hears their girls screaming. And we've kind of gotten a setup prior to this, like when we first meet them, the girls are like, "Oh, a monster!"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, there's no monster," playfully or whatever. But they're screaming, like, "There's a monster in here!" And she goes and she opens the door, and you just see this silhouette of Nosferatu holding one of them like off to the side, and their body's limp, and the other one he like removes from his mouth as she opens the door, and you see the blood just come away, and he just drops the body. Yeah.
I was shook when the children died.
Yeah,
I was like, oh shit.
I didn't think they were gonna do that.
I didn't know they were gonna go there.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. Man.
Yep. Honestly, just fucking horrible.
Willem Dafoe says, "I'm sorry, my child. You'll have to. The only way to break the curse is if you do tricks on it for 8 hours.
You gotta bounce on that thing."
Yeah.
Yep. And that was the solution.
That was the solution. People were so he was talking about this and being like, if she had to keep him occupied until the first cock's crow to signal daylight has come to break the curse, keep him out of his coffin before by daybreak or whatever. That if he showed up right at midnight, that's a full work day.
It's the world's oldest profession, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it was crazy. I also, the scene after Friedrich's wife and children were killed, and they're at the funeral when he comes rushing up. Oh, the pain.
To scream.
He's doing like ugly crying, and it's like frog in the throat kind of.
Yep.
It was so good.
He's so good at what he does.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly good.
Yeah.
Did you have a like scariest moment of this movie?
Let's see. It's honestly hard to pick because there's a lot of scary moments in the movie. And also the whole movie is just like, feels like one extended moment. Yeah. And so it's hard without all the context. I think for me, one of my scariest moments was the children because that was just truly disturbing and upsetting. I also was really freaked out by the scene the first night that Thomas comes home and he's kind of like, he's effectively like mute and he's like traumatized and sick and all this stuff. And he's laying in bed and Ellen is on top of him. And we kind of have, again, another one of those sort of strange, like, what's real, what's not, you know, what's happening. But he's sort of having this like vision of Ellen. And then it quickly cuts to a vision of Ellen, like with blood pouring out of her like eyes and mouth and ears. And he like pushes her away from him. Yeah. And that was really sad too, because like she had just wanted him back so much. And then this perfectly dovetails into what I think is actually the scariest part, which is when Anna Harding, Friedrich's wife, she puts the children to bed, and then she has this like, she starts to sort of hear something and feel the presence of that we know is Nosferatu. And there's this horrifyingly long and silent moment where she like has it's candle lit in the hallway and she looks towards the staircase and she completely leaves the frame as it like pans over and studies it. And then it goes back to her and you're like, he's gonna be there, but then he's not there. But then we get fucking hit again with Ellen popping out and being like, oh, can I sleep with you tonight? And it's just the perfect, like, it's everything that they didn't show that made it so scary.
Yeah, you were expecting it to be Nosferatu and then it's Ellen. But I do think that scene also illustrates like how Ellen and Nosferatu are like intrinsically tied together, right? Like I don't doubt that Nosferatu's presence was there, but the fact that Ellen was able to like seemingly move unnoticed right up behind her and jump scare her like that, just kind of shows that like it's kind of all one and the same mixed together kind of a thing. My scariest moment is more like traditional horror focused in this movie. It is the entire sequence on the ship.
That's a good one too. Oh,
it's really good. It is like if you like horror movies for like the flashing light and the monsters just suddenly there all of a sudden, this scene has, I mean, exactly that. Yeah. Oh man, it was so like I had the reaction in the theater when I saw it. So like they're on the ship, they think everyone's dying of the plague. They kind of are, but Nosferatu is also just like killing them and draining them of their blood and stuff like that. One of the guys is like, I'm gonna put an end to this plague once and for all. And so he goes down below deck. It's all storming and stuff on the ship. And he goes down there, he's got his little lantern and he's got a little axe, and he sees the crate and it's got the wax seal from Count Orlok on there, and he goes over there to crack it open, but on his way there we're getting like flashes of lightning, and again he just has the one lantern light, and he passes by like on a ship, so things are just kind of moving because they're on a ship, but then you hear this like squelching kind of, and you see as he passes something, you see the texture of what would be Count Orlok's naked body,
gross, horrible body,
shifting, and you like kind of see his arm as it fades out of the light, and you're like in the theater I was like, oh fuck.
Oh, hell no.
So he cracks open the thing and then the lightning flashes. And when it does, you see Orlok right behind him and he grabs him and just kills him right there. Oh, it's so good.
I loved the storytelling of the entire ship exchange. Yes. It was so wonderfully done. And even down to, because the ship, while bringing Count Orlok, also brings the plague to the city. And so there's, and Friedrich Harding is like a shipyard owner. Mm-hmm. So he gets, called away to, in the middle of all this interpersonal drama.
3 a.m. when they come and get him.
Yeah. And they're like, you're going to want to see this. And it's the completely like crashed ship because no one made it out alive except for all the rats pouring in. Yep. And they're immediately like, it's a plague ship. And it's just, oh man, it's just such good storytelling.
Yeah, the chaos.
And how like you see the streets thin out and like there's really nobody, like it was so packed and busy in the beginning, and then it just steadily becomes like no one except for like a random corpse that a dog is picking at.
Yeah, again, it's like at the beginning of the movie, like when Thomas goes out onto the street, it's packed with all of these people. And then after the ship crashes, again, getting towards the end of the movie, when Count Orlok arrives in the town or city, the only people we see out on the street are like sick and dying. There's like this big bonfire that's been built and there's a guy preaching out in front of it. And there's just corpses in the street, or there's like nobody on the street because, nobody wants to be around anybody because the plague.
They're all freaking dead.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just really good.
It's a good movie. I just have to say.
Yeah.
Do you love Halloween? Have you ever wished there was another time to celebrate that fun and spooky time of year?
Well, now you can. Hauntfest is a Halloween horror festival business that celebrates Halloween off-season.
Their next ghoulish affairs will be at Nightmare Dungeon in Greenville, South Carolina on December 13th through 15th, and at Terrapin Beer Company in Athens, Georgia on April 4th through 6th.
Hauntfest events include all sorts of themed activities, such as hay rides, freak shows, fire breathing, live music, trivia, pumpkin painting, animal encounters, a haunted trail, and much more.
The festival also hosts an array of horror and Halloween-themed vendors, offering anything from tarot readings and antiques to original horror literature, macabre artwork, and jewelry.
Don't miss out on this opportunity. Get your pre-sale tickets today for only $20.
For ticket purchases, inquiries, and more info, please visit www.hauntfest.net and follow Hauntfest on social media.
Let's do our rating.
Let's do our rating indeed.
My highest rated thing that I put in this was for visuals. I gave it a 10. I think if you watch this movie and you don't necessarily like it for like the horror stuff, or like the other stuff makes you like uncomfortable, which again I think is kind of the point, but whatever. If it's not exactly your bag on that, even the negative comments that I have seen about the movie where they're just like, this was boring and slow paced or whatever, which I disagree with. They even say that this movie is like a cinematic marvel and like spectacle to watch.
Visually beautiful.
Visually, this movie is just a treat to watch. So I gave it a 10 in that. I also gave it pretty high marks in like every other category. I thought the performances were great. It was incredibly entertaining. I'd love to watch it again.
Me too.
I thought the vision category that we have for it, kind of hard to rate that low because he just set out to make his own remake of Nosferatu, and he did that. Yeah. So
I freaking love Robert Eggers. And I just have to say how much it's one of the things that I like about The Witch as well, which is my first, thing that I saw from him. But having the like time period accurate dialogue.
Yes.
And not like spoon feeding stuff to us. Like we can, and I mean, really, it's just kind of a testament to the performances that even though they're speaking in a way that sounds kind of, foreign to us almost now because we don't use, grammar and sentence structure in the same way. But I always knew what was happening because of the performances.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah. The lowest thing I rated this was a 7.5 in scares. So that's how good I think this movie is. I thought it was sufficiently spooky scary.
Yeah.
Mostly from the sense of dread that runs through basically the entire course of this movie.
Yeah.
That only lifts at the very end, and that's kind of denoted by a bunch of sadness.
You're right. So my scares was my lowest category as well. I rated it a little bit lower at a 6.5. And I think for me, and it's not even to say that it's not scary, because I think it is, but for me, I found myself so like just enamored by how beautiful everything was that I wasn't always scared. Like there were parts, and also as a horror lover and as a person who like knows a lot of the references that it's making and things, there were times in the theater where I was literally smiling ear to ear because I was like, oh my god, like that perfect little, you know, when Count Orlok's shadow hand, you know, that whole sequence and everything.
I love that sequence when he's going through the house.
There were things like that genuinely felt like joyful, and so I couldn't quite make it as high in scares, but that's me. That's my own thing.
That's fair.
Yeah. So anyway, with that being said, my score was an 8.4. It looks like your score was an 8.8.
Yeah.
Which brings us to an 8.6.
Yes.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah. I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I think most people I know will also like this movie.
Yeah. If you don't like the movie, then I don't know, maybe try again.
You can tell me about how wrong you are in an email or something.
Yeah.
We also really wanted to, for this movie, just because this movie is just so over the top with it.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a way to reflect this in our normal rating scale.
Right.
So we've made a new thing that I guess we're still workshopping, kind of.
Yeah.
But we've made a horniness meter.
Yes.
For this that I was calling the hornometer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you like that name.
I think we need the E to suggest horniness.
Okay. So then we go horniometer.
Yeah.
Horny-o-meter.
Yeah.
And I think we settled on this, like, and the scale goes from 0 to 100.
Right.
Because it's got to make sense.
Right.
And I think this is like topping out the scale.
Yeah, I think this is kind of more or less setting the bar. Like basically, unless you're making porn, it's not hornier than this.
Yeah. It's just like there are scenes where like the people will be like, he's coming, and they mean like he's showing up, like he's coming, he's actively coming. But then there would be times where like they're in the middle of the most orgasmic like vision that they could possibly be having, and they're saying he's coming, and I'm like, I think we all gathered that.
Yeah. It's extremely horny in a weird way, and I love that.
In a honestly like 50% uncomfortable way.
Oh yeah, weird, horribly uncomfortable.
Yeah, little side tangent. There was when we were watching it in the theater, there was a group of people who showed up late, so it was just after that initial scene that we talked about with the title card, so they missed that. Then they came in and they had a young child with them. Crazy, and they left early, and when they left, it looked like the kid was sleeping because they were carrying them out, so I don't know if they left because the kid had fallen asleep, if they had gotten there and they thought this was going to be a more traditional like jump scare, slashery kind of horror, and they thought they were one of the people that like, oh, it's slow and boring and nothing happens. Maybe the kid saw all they needed to see and rated it, they got on Google and were like 1 star. Yeah. When's Freddy Fazbear show up? I only got to see 2 dicks. Yeah.
Really kind of like 1.5, because we get full dick and then we get dick that you kind of have to like really be looking for. Yeah. I don't even think I saw the half dick. Yeah. I don't know what scene it was in. It's when the old man. Yeah.
Is it when he's in the cell?
No, earlier than that, when he's doing the pagan ritual, and he's
when he
naked.
Like flips over?
Yeah, when he turns around, the book kind of shuffles, and you get a little glimpse.
I feel like I was looking intently for it, and I didn't see it.
Okay, well maybe I saw what I wanted to see. Yeah,
you're imagining the dick,
because I was promised full frontal nudity.
You got it with Count Orlok. Yeah. It's not the full frontal nudity you wanted.
Yeah,
but it's what you got.
Honestly, it is what I wanted. Yeah.
I wanted to see an old man corpse.
Yeah, Nosferatu, letting it all hang loose.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, baby.
Weekend at Orlocks.
Yeah. Anyway, you should watch this movie. See it while it's in theaters if you can, because it's really...
It was a fun experience seeing it in theaters.
Yeah, and I plan to watch it again.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it again.
Other than that, I think we're ready to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's all I got for this one. I could talk about this movie for all day.
Yeah, but we've already gone long.
Yeah, we have gone really long on this one. But I could talk about this movie for like 2 hours. Yeah. It's so good. There's like so many parts of this movie that I
know, there are things that I had on my list to talk about that I didn't even get to because there's just so much. But anyway, if you want to
you will obey this, my counsel.
Yes.
But like it's even more gruff.
Yes.
You will obey this, my counsel.
I heard that Bill Skarsgård worked with an opera singer on his voice because he needed to lower his register so significantly.
Honestly, it sounds like he is doing it from here.
Yeah.
And for everyone at home, I'm like in my stomach.
Yeah. That's where the diaphragm is. Yeah.
It's not just like a metal band guy.
It was amazing.
It's powerful.
But anyway, if you want to tell me about any dicks that I missed in Nosferatu,
you didn't even watch the same movie. There were at least 13. Everywhere.
Yeah, go ahead and send me an email. That's firstfrightpod@gmail.com. We're also on social media. We're on X and Instagram. It's @firstfrightpod. We also have a Facebook page, which is Love at First Fright. You are more than welcome and invited to follow us, chat with us, send us your movie suggestions, send us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Man, this movie's good.
It's good.
It's really good. So the next episode that comes out is going to be after the new year has hit, but it'll be a little New Year special. I think that's all we got for this one. All right, cool. Well, as always, scare well, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm coming.
I came. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, I swear this never happens.